Ndung'u for elections to the bench of the International Criminal Court for the year 2027-2036 term. This candidature reflects Kenya's enduring commitment to international justice, the rule of law, and strengthening of multilateral institutions. Excellency, Justice Ndung'u's distinguished judicial service, both nationally and regionally, together with her experience in the legislature, are all well known and well documented. And therefore, we present a candidate who, in our view, embodies the highest credentials, as well as integrity, competence, and the independence required of judges of the World Court. Today's event marks not only a national endorsement, but also a continuation of a broader engagement with partners and fellow state parties to the Rome Statute in support of the candidature. Kenya's active participation in international judicial elections, including in the International Court of Justice and regional mechanisms such as the Commerce Court of Justice, is both a strategic imperative and a principled extension of our foreign policy. By advancing qualified and eminent Kenyan jurists to these institutions, Kenya plays its part in contributing to the strengthening of a rules-based international order, promoting equitable geographic and gender representation, and ensuring that Africa's perspectives and lived experiences are meaningfully reflected in the development of international jurisprudence. Excellencies, without much further ado, allow me therefore to draw your attention to the screen for a brief presentation on Honorable Lady Justice Ndung'u's candidature. You may play the clip. Thank you.
There are moments in history when humanity must choose justice over impunity, when the world must affirm that dignity, accountability, and the rule of law are not ideals for a few nations, but universal principles for all people. At such moments, the International Criminal Court stands as a guardian of humanity's conscience. And from Kenya emerges a jurist whose life's work has been dedicated to that very cause, Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u, a judge of the Supreme Court of Kenya, a defender of human rights, a constitutional reformer, a legislator, and one of Africa's most distinguished voices on gender justice and international law.
My focus has been on the safety of women, and it has been informed by my own experience. And I wanted to give that voice to other women and girls. It's something that I still do today. And I think that leadership is about doing things when you feel that it is right.
For over 3 decades, Justice Njoki Ndung'u has worked across national, regional, and international institutions to advance justice, accountability, and human dignity.
Unchecked and unbridled episodes of violence are a sure recipe for the disintegration of a nation and the destruction of a constitutional order. This court stands not for lending legitimacy to any acts of violence as a device for settling disagreements.
As a criminal prosecutor, she handled serious criminal cases and championed due process and fair trial rights. As a member of parliament, she became the architect of Kenya's landmark Sexual Offences Act, transforming legal protection for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence, setting a powerful precedent for reform across Africa. At the African Union, she played a leadership role in developing the protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the Rights of Women in Africa, the historic Maputo Protocol, one of the most influential human rights instruments on the African continent. Through her work with the United Nations, regional institutions, and refugee protection agencies, she has engaged directly with issues of conflict, displacement, sexual violence, peace building, and reconciliation. She understands that justice is not only about punishment, it is also about restoring dignity to victims, rebuilding trust in institutions, and strengthening peace in societies emerging from conflict. At the Supreme Court of Kenya, Justice Njoki Ndung'u has contributed to jurisprudence grounded in judicial independence, human dignity, fairness, and constitutionalism.
We are discussing how we can increase the space for judicial independence, what lessons we have learned, and where we are going with this.
Her vision for the International Criminal Court is clear. A court that is independent, victim-centered, efficient, gender-responsive, and firmly anchored in integrity and the rule of law. A court that commands legitimacy through principled and courageous judicial decision-making. A court that reflects the diversity of legal traditions and lived realities across the world.
The court has rendered its judgment by a majority. I am, however, of a different opinion. At the heart of democracy are the people who will constitute the strand of governance that we have chosen as a country.
A court that strengthens accountability while safeguarding due process and fair trial rights. Kenya is proud to present Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u as its candidate for election as judge of the International Criminal Court for the term 2027-2036, a jurist shaped by courage, a champion of human rights, a voice for victims, and a judge committed to justice for humanity.
Such a compelling case already. Let's put our hands together again. Now to help us officially unveil the candidate, it is my honor to invite Honorable Lady Justice Joyce Alwoch, a former member of the International Criminal Court. It is my pleasure to invite her. Let's put our hands together for Justice Alwoch, please.
Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Kenya, I'm just trying to catch your eye. Thank you, Your Excellency, I was trying to catch your eye. The Honorable the Chief Justice, I have caught your eye already, yes. The Republic, the Chief Justice and head of the Supreme Court and basically head of the Judiciary. And the Minister for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, and in a minute I will explain why it is so important that you are here, and I'm glad that you are here. The Attorney General is somewhere here, and all the diplomats who are here, thank you for coming. Please allow me to ride on the protocols that have already been established. But I particularly want to mention the Principal Secretary, Dr. Abraham Korir Singoye, because everything will be landing at his door. And he knows it. I can see your face. You know it. After this, Your Excellency, thank you for, first and foremost, for nominating Honorable Njoki Ndung'u to be a candidate for the ICC elections, scheduled for December this year, and today launching her candidature. How many years ago was it that I went through this exercise? I went through an exercise of nomination. And my election to the International Criminal Court was on the 20th of January, 2009. I can't forget that date because the same day, President Obama was taking oath of office in Washington, D.C., and our elections were in New York. So I have that reason to remember always. Now, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is absolutely critical in this whole exercise, as they will literally take over after today's launch and continue with the campaign, and that's why I mentioned the principal secretary. And I'm just remembering what I went through. That's how many years ago? 2009 to today, 2026. Any arithmetic? Quick. Yes. Now, just for record purposes, and I think this is important, just for record purposes, we shall be looking for votes, because election, you're looking for votes, isn't it? From 125 countries who are state parties to the Rome Statute. This is the Rome Statute that created the International Criminal Court. And to date, there are 125 countries. Those are the votes we are going to look for. Out of that, 33 are African nations. By the time I was going for elections, there were 108 state parties to the Rome Statute. It has developed, isn't it? And that's why we have 125 state parties to the Rome Statute. Out of that, I said 33 African nations, Latin American, 28 states, Eastern Europe, 20 states, Western Europe and other countries, 25 states, and Asia Pacific, 19 states. These are the votes we are going to look for. 125. We have a candidate that can get all that. Now, I will not talk about those who have just signed. I'm talking about those states who have ratified the Rome Statute, 125. And with East Africa, of course, I will not talk about other countries that have since stepped down. Now, this scenario, Honorable Your Excellency, this scenario is very different from the scenario we have at the United Nations. We also have a candidate as a country for the civil court. They call it the World Court. At The Hague, they call it the World Court. I can't explain why it's called the World Court. There are 193 countries that are eligible to vote for Judge Dr. Phoebe. But for ICC, 125. That's the difference between the two courts, International Court of Justice and International Criminal Court. These two courts are different. And you can even see the member states are different. But for today, we want the 125 votes for our candidates because we have a special candidate. Now, please allow me to make one more comment, Your Excellency. Apart from the candidates that we have, state parties, and this happened, and I saw this in New York in 2009, state parties also critically examine the country the candidate is coming from. In New York, there's a big hall like this one, and different embassies sit with their candidate in that corner, that corner, that corner, that corner, different corners. That's the process of the campaign that my sister Njoki is going to go through. And they look beyond the candidate that they have with them, and they are looking at the country. Fortunately, by the time that first and foremost, Your Excellency, the successful African Forum Summit that has just ended, that's a big plus for our candidate. Very big plus. Thank you. And as we move forward, there will be, because that time, the only person who is probably with the candidate at that time, if I recall, is the ambassador, or if the ambassador is not there for the day, it will be the legal officer from the mission, the Kenya Embassy, Kenya mission. And at that time, whoever was with me all the time, she's now the ambassador in Germany, Kenya's ambassador in Germany. At the time, she was the legal officer in the embassy. Now, Your Excellency, because they are going to begin looking beyond the candidate and beginning to say, okay, you are a candidate, we have seen your profile, but A, B, C, D, how can we trust you? Your country is doing A, B, C, D. So it is important, Your Excellency, that we talk about peace, peace building, mediation and peace building to take us forward. I'm saying this because personally I'm a certified international mediator and a peace builder. And I saw that worked very well for 2 years when I was in South Sudan, reforming the judiciary of South Sudan. Peace building helped a lot. And that's where we are going to move to now. Now, I'm a very keen Rotarian, Your Excellency, very, very keen. And, you know, Rotary is service above self. And very soon, on the 4th of July, I'll be installed as the president of the oldest Rotary club in this country. All the senior Rotarians belong there, started in 1930. And my motto is peace. And I especially want to work with the younger generation mentorship. And they are called Rotaractors. The younger generation are Rotaractors. Basically, they are Gen Zs. That's the name that they are Gen Zs. So if we can get them in order, if we can mentor them, and that is my motto for the next 1 year, mentor them. If I can find other organizations that are able to work with me so that we mentor, so that by the time our sister goes for election or Dr. Phoebe goes for elections, we are people that the world can trust. Because sometimes our younger generation, our Gen Zs, they are misused, they are cheated, they are, you know. So mine is I'm preaching peace, peace building and peace everywhere so that we have a very good candidate. There is no reason, I've told my sister, Justice Njoki, there is no reason why she cannot win these elections. I give her little tips here and there, and I told her, you have to win, and you have to do better than what I did. Thank you, Your Excellency, and I just sincerely hope that I will manage from 4th of July moving forward, I will manage to mentor the younger generation, Rotaractors. And once we mentor Rotaractors, they're going to mentor other young people so that we have peace in the country. We need peace everywhere, every day. Thank you very much. Okay.
Another round of applause. The theme clearly of Justice Aluot's conversation has been around structuring this campaign to reach those states parties in the most efficient manner. Now my pleasure it is to invite the candidate. Let's put our hands together as she steps in, escorted by the Honorable Attorney General of the Republic. Come up on stage.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, the Honorable Chief Justice Martha Koome, the Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Prime Cabinet Secretary, Cabinet Secretaries, Principal Secretaries present, the Honorable CRJ, distinguished ambassadors, members of the Diplomatic Corps, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored by the confidence of the government of Kenya that has placed in me by nominating and supporting my candidature for the election of Judge of the International Criminal Court for the year 2027 to 2036. I accept this endorsement with humility and gratitude. Proud to do so as a Kenyan who has dedicated her professional life to the service of justice and the rule of law and the protection of human dignity. I am deeply grateful to His Excellency President William Ruto for his decisive leadership in advancing my candidature and personally introducing me to more presidents than I am sure I will ever meet, more heads of state, in order to secure support ahead of the ICC election in December. I equally acknowledge the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, whose unwavering support, together with the diligence of his Permanent Secretary, Dr. Korir Sing'oei, they have both been instrumental in this journey. I owe a special debt of gratitude to the Chief Justice, Martha Koome, whose confidence in my ability to serve, her mentorship and her encouragement for me to seek higher office has always been invaluable. The same gratitude I wish to extend to my elder sister, Ambassador Ida Odinga, and to Justice Joyce Aloch for ever encouraging me in my career development and personal life. As you are aware, the International Criminal Court was established to adjudicate the gravest of crimes under international criminal law and possibly act as a deterrent against these crimes. Yet, the geopolitical challenges of today continue to test its mandate. The world is still witnessing systematic violations of human rights, crimes against humanity, and conflicts that destabilize societies. Faced with these realities, the International Criminal Court requires judges that fiercely defend judicial independence to ensure that the court is not used as a political theater, but remains firmly anchored in the Rome Statute. Ladies and gentlemen, my candidacy is anchored in five values, which I believe define the character of a judge of the International Criminal Court, and which is critical at this moment in time. These are courage, pragmatism, efficiency, victim-centered justice, and for a judge from Africa, the ability to bring Africa-focused jurisprudence. Courage as a judicial value is indispensable, and judges of the ICC currently have faced direct threats, political pressure, and even sanctions. Therefore, courage is the quality that enables the judges to uphold the law, to resist external pressure, and to defend the court's integrity against attempts to transform the court into an instrument of politics. I believe my own career demonstrates this quality in courage. In the Supreme Court, I have issued detailed dissenting opinions in high-profile constitutional and electoral cases, standing firm on principle. These dissents have been widely discussed in legal scholarship and public discourse for their emphasis on constitutional interpretation and the protection of human rights. Beyond the bench, my past work as a legislator required a courage of a different kind, finding ways to deal with conflict, negotiating across divides, and crafting laws and policies that provide for gender justice, including the Sexual Offences Act, the maternity and paternity benefits, and in the African Union, working on the Maputo Protocol on Women's Rights. The second value which is most important to a judge of the ICC is pragmatism, which means balancing ideals with realities, ensuring that justice is principled, workable, and trusted by those it serves. By crafting solutions that respond to specific needs of member states, ensuring accountability, and strengthening domestic institutions so that justice is not perpetually outsourced to the ICC. My career has been shaped by institutions where the law meets life, in civil society, at the African Union, the United Nations, in the National Parliament, at the Pan-African Parliament, at the committee of experts that drafted the Constitution of Kenya, and in the Judiciary, where I have learned the importance of being pragmatic. My vision, therefore, for the ICC is about grounding ideals in lived realities, ensuring that the ICC serves not only as a court of last resort, but also as a partner in building resilient national systems of justice, a court that applies legal principles equally across all the regions of the world. Efficiency, ladies and gentlemen, is the third characteristic vital for a judge of the ICC, and it means more than case management. It means integrating modern systems, streamlining investigations, accelerating hearings, and to reduce the time victims have to wait for justice. As a former criminal prosecutor, working under the Director of Public Prosecutions in the AG's office, and as a judge of a collegial court, I have worked to ensure consistency in the application of rules, to run a court effectively, and to manage hearings in a way that prevents delays. This experience has taught me that efficiency is about structure, discipline, and foresight, and it is this experience that I will also bring to the ICC. Victims are at the core of international criminal justice, and true justice must go beyond punishing perpetrators to restoring dignity. A victim-centered approach requires institutions that are safe, inclusive, and responsive, places where survivors can participate meaningfully, having their voices heard and see their rights protected. Equality of the law must be matched by equality in access to justice, ensuring that the victims are not sidelined by procedure or delay. My professional journey has always been victim-centered. At the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, I work directly with refugees and asylum seekers and displaced communities whose lives had been shattered by conflict. And at the African Union, I witnessed the devastating consequences of violence on fragile societies. My work on sexual and gender-based violence began then, while doing protection work for refugees, and I've continued this work through the legislation, such as the Sexual Offences Act, through case law, and through institution building in all the places that I have worked. For the International Criminal Court, the urgency of victim-centered justice is clear. Communities devastated by conflict often wait years for reparations, and prolonged trials erode faith in international justice. A credible ICC, therefore, must prioritize timely redress, strengthen the trust fund for victims, and ensure equitable support where the need is greatest. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, a judge from Africa must bring an African perspective. Africa has often carried the weight of ICC scrutiny, sometimes accompanied by perception of bias. The ICC must confront bias directly, not deny it, and craft solutions that reflect Africa's context rather than to impose external models of justice on Africa. It is important for the ICC to rebuild its relationship with Africa. The jurisprudence of the ICC also to date reflects little or no reference to African case law, African scholarly work, or even to African jurists. It is important that Africa's legal experiences be embedded in the case law and jurisprudence of the International Criminal Court. And this I will do. The elections for Judge of ICC, for which I seek your support, is scheduled for December 2026, where state parties will elect 6 judges from all over the world. If I am elected, then Kenya will bring to the court a deep respect for judicial independence, a firm belief in procedural fairness, and a pragmatic understanding of how justice must function in practice. Excellence, ce serait pour moi un immense honneur de contribuer à la promotion de la paix, de la justice, de l'État, des droits, enseignant comme juge à la Cour pénale internationale. Je vous remercie sincèrement pour votre confiance et votre considération. I thank you all. Asanteni sana.
Impeccable judicial credentials and a multilingual jurist as well. Another round of applause to our candidate. I think we do have an extremely compelling candidate. Makes our work at the Foreign Office a little less painful. Indeed, Your Excellency, allow me now to invite two comments, very brief comments. First, the candidate has requested that a leader, one of the leaders of the women movement, speaks briefly. And I will be ushering in Daisy Amdani to do that. I will then request the chairperson of the Senior Council Committee, Mr. Philip Mugo, Senior Counsel, to speak before we usher in the Chief Justice. Daisy, please.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the Honorable Chief Justice, Lady Justice Martha Koome, the Honorable Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, the Honorable Attorney General, distinguished guests, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really not known for being nervous, but this was an ambush. It is a great honor for me to stand here to celebrate my friend, sister from another mother, mentor, very distinguished Kenyan, Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u. And I really want to appreciate, on behalf of her friends and even the women's movement, the endorsement that Kenya, the government of Kenya, and Your Excellency have given to her candidature. Now, everybody has spoken about Lady Justice's distinguished and illustrious career, which is so. But I want to speak on a personal level, because I have known Njoki for years. We have come a long way from our girlhood, let's say girlhood, from those days. And I have watched her from when she was a state council. And I will say this about her. And this is not flattery. This is really about the person that we are here to celebrate her candidature. Njoki is a person of courage and conviction. She is not afraid to take a stand when a stand needs to be taken. I recall even when she was state council, she had the audacity to actually take a stand against a particular view, which got her into quite a bit of trouble. But she said that it was against the administration of justice. Njoki Ndung'u, as she has claimed, I will tell you that she is also a very strategic thinker and organizer. When she was a member of parliament and working on the Sexual Offences Act. It took a lot of convincing because there was a lot of resistance. The male members of parliament, I remember even one of them said, because at that time Jacob Zuma was being tried in South Africa for sex crime, and they said this is the law that they want to bring so that they can take us the Zuma way. And so Njoki helped devise a strategy, called in civil society, and devised a strategy, mapping, identifying the resistance, and adopting a message, and we adopted members of parliament. She got some of the most conservative men to be the ones to support the sexual offences bill at that time, and it passed. And when you think about where we are coming from and the traditional character, you understand that it took a lot of strategy to be able to pull that off. As Njoki has risen through the ranks, she has not become too big to engage. I will tell you that even as a Supreme Court judge, as civil society, when we have needed assistance, there was a time that there was a proposal to lower the age of sexual consent from 18 to 16 years old. And there was panic about what that entailed and what that meant for women and girls in Kenya. Njoki was happy to support us. She took off her robes and she would come to the office and sit. I remember the first day that she came to the office, the guards were very shocked. They said, "Is that Supreme Court judge?" Because sometimes you engage with people and they become, you know, talk to my PA, you know, but not Njoki. She's a woman of courage and conviction. I have heard her commitments, and I've read them, about bringing Africa's perspective to the ICC. And you can be sure that if there is a voice that Kenya needs at the ICC, or that Africa needs, Njoki's voice is it. She has not been afraid to take unpopular positions. She talked about her dissenting opinion. What she didn't say is what it cost her. I think you all know, as politicians, Kenya can be a very difficult place when you take an unpopular opinion. And some of her positions, which are of conviction, have put her in serious crosshairs with people, threats and all. But that doesn't make her hold back. And that's the kind of leadership that we need. And so, even as Kenya has endorsed her, I want to say this. I also commit to rallying civil society, because I know that part of the ICC process will be a Congress of CSOs, civil society. And we are going to call upon our civil society and women rights organizations to be patriotic, because this is for Kenya. And Kenya blazes the trail. We have just had the Africa Forward conference. Africa is the new frontier, and Kenya is the one that is leading that trail. And so I want to thank you and congratulate you, Njoki, and wish you the very best, and to remind you this one thing, and I say this to you and to all of us. There is a lady who said that each one of us is a voice that God speaks into a generation, meaning that each one of us carries a certain mandate that only we can execute in this lifetime. And Njoki, with your work, even with the sexual offences bill, you know, you opened a whole world of other engagement. Today, women are seen, women are heard, survivors, sexual and gender-based survivors are seen and they are heard. They are not ignored. Our government hears. We have judicial processes for voices that were silent before. I believe you are a voice, a very clear voice that needs to speak now on the international stage. And so we will pray for the favor of Yahweh. I like the prayer that you prayed. Indeed, except Yahweh builds a house, they labor in vain that build it. You have a serious political organizer supporting you, because, Mr. President, you have never lost an election, and we don't plan to lose this one. So you must make sure we don't lose this one. We are firmly behind you. I would be remiss if I do not say on their side, Mr. President, the women of Kenya still have a date with you. We are still waiting for the 2/3 law. You need to open the gates. There are other Njokis that also need to come through. Do it, because you do the hard things. This one has been hard. Please, crack it now. Congratulations, Njoki, and all the best.
It's for a good reason, Your Excellency, that it takes a while to give a mic to somebody like Daisy Amdani, but certainly it was extremely timely. Senior Counsel Philip Mugo, you have the floor, sir. Please.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, Your Ladyship, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, Martha Koome, Prime Cabinet Secretary, Salim Davadi, my colleague, Dr. Sodwar, the Attorney General, Cabinet Secretaries, Principal Secretaries led by the very able MC, Abraham Singwe, my good friend, my auntie, Lady Justice Joyce Oloch, ambassadors, judges, members of the bar, senior counsels included, ladies and gentlemen. I won't say much. I have known this charming candidate of Kenya for, I was just counting it, and without my phone it gave me a lot of difficulty. But I finally worked it out to about 38 years. And she is still as beautiful as she was then. But what I remember is something about, I call her Njoki for the purposes of my comment, I was a little older than her in prosecution services in government. And she'd come out of, I think, Waruhio and Mwite and joined the government, like me. Had all the choices in the world when you're as bright as some of us were. Government is the last choice, but it depends on where you're coming from. Public service was in my heart, was in her heart, and she chose government. And she went into prosecution services, and those days, I was a very aggressive prosecutor. This is in 1986, 1987, 1988. The Attorney General had not yet joined prosecution services. She was a little behind us. And I remember Njoki once saying, "You are my mentor. I want to model my life on yours." Why do I want to come up with this? I think God gives everybody just one career. Mr. President, I think yours was politics, and you have done well. Those who went into defending straight out of law school defend all their lives. Those who start with prosecution stay close to a certain line, and that line is defending victims. When you're a prosecutor, you are always looking at the victim side, not the perpetrator side. So in Justice Njoki's line, I see everything that has been said about her. What she said about herself, what she says was her career line. She went into prosecution, went into civil society, went into politics, ended up in the Supreme Court, but her original line was prosecution. And when I listened to her today, the most passion was evident when she discussed defending victims and bringing justice to those who are defiled and those who are wronged and those who are killed and so on. So what I see today is a natural career progression. I must say, Justice Njoki, I wondered why you were hanging around in the Supreme Court for so long. After 13 years, what more can you be doing? You've seen it all. You've adjudicated upon it all. You now must go back to your life's passion, which is criminal justice, and in this case, international criminal justice. You're going there. I look at your CV, I look at your career. You are more than qualified. I don't want to say overqualified, because an interviewer says, then they won't give you the job. You are more than qualified. On our part, and I speak today on behalf of not only the Senior Counsel Bar that I chair, but on behalf of the legal fraternity, law society included, we fully endorse, we fully support your candidature. I listened to Lady Justice Oluoch talk about sometimes the loneliness of a candidate. In those days, perhaps there was not that much in terms of resources to support a candidate. We have seen what President William Ruto's administration does when it supports a candidate. It throws in everything. This is just the start, and on our part, I can tell you, you were escorted by the Attorney General and the Vice Chair of the Senior Counsel Bar, Joyce Majiwa. We offer you some of our seniors, led by Joyce Majiwa, to accompany you on some of your missions to secure support. So, Mr. President, when she says she has friends, make available enough for a ticket or two for friends. When she has a cold, she has to have enough people walking with her and speaking for her. So with that, we just want to assure everybody present, particularly the candidate and the president who is launching and supporting fully your bid, that she comes highly recommended and fully supported. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senior Counsel Murgor, for your advice and for the ringing endorsement to the candidature. It's now my profound honor to welcome the Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court of the Republic, Honorable Justice Martha Koome. Let's put our hands together.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samuel Ruto, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, the Honorable Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Honorable Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u, our candidate who is being unveiled today, all the Cabinet Secretaries, Principal Secretaries, Honorable Judges, members of the Bar, led by the President of the Senior Counsel Bar, Excellency Ambassadors and members of the Diplomatic Corps, our very distinguished guests this afternoon, good afternoon. On behalf of the Judiciary and the Judicial Service Commission, I express our deep appreciation to His Excellency the President and the Government of the Republic of Kenya for the confidence and support extended to the candidature of the Honorable Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u for election as Judge of the International Criminal Court for the 2027-2036 term. We are equally grateful to the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. We are also grateful to the Kenya Diplomatic Corps and all the state institutions that have embraced this candidature as a matter of national importance. Kenya's nomination of Honorable Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u is the outcome of a very deliberate, consultative, and merit-based national process. This nomination is informed by Kenya's prior contribution to the court, including the very distinguished service that was rendered to the court by the Honorable Lady Justice Joyce Arwoch, who served as a judge of the ICC from 2009 to 2018. Notably, it has also been informed by the reasons of previous candidature cycles. I want to mention that Kenya considered putting forward a candidate in 2022, but considered deferring that decision and the candidature for 2022, allowing the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs to work in consultation with the Office of the President and the Judiciary so that we could have sufficient time for reflection, for diplomatic alignment, and preparation of a stronger and more coordinated national effort. And I want to say the time is now. In the current cycle, the process was formally initiated by the Honorable Attorney General, followed by notification from the Assembly of State Parties, and was undertaken in accordance with Article 36 of the Rome Statute and the standards set by the Advisory Committee on Nomination of Judges. When that process was started and transmitted to the Judiciary invited expressions of interest from all judges of the superior courts, subjected the applications to rigorous evaluation by the Judicial Service Commission, and transmitted the 3 recommended candidates for consideration by His Excellency the President. It is upon the conclusion of this transparent and competitive process that His Excellency the President nominated Honorable Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u, CBS, FC, Fellow of Saturn Institute Arbitrators, Judge of the Supreme Court of Kenya, as Kenya's candidate for election to the International Criminal Court. I want to emphasize that Justice Njoki put in her own application for nomination. The nomination was made in good time within the official nomination window, enabling Kenya to mount a well-prepared, well-coordinated, and nationally supported campaign. Your Excellency, this moment affirms an important truth that the judiciary is not only a domestic institution of justice, but also a very strategic national asset in Kenya's international profile. Around the world, nations are increasingly judged by the strength of their institutions, the independence of their courts, and the credibility of their commitment to the rule of law. In that regard, the Kenya judiciary is our country's foremost defender of constitutionalism, human rights, democratic accountability, and institutional integrity. This standing has earned Kenya reverence both at home and abroad. It has also made our judiciary an exceptional training ground for judges who understand that justice must be principled, courageous, independent, and outlive the context within which we live. As a matter of fact, because Justice Arwoch mentioned peace building, Your Excellency, on 19th June, we are hosting as Kenya a forum of Africa Chief Justices, where we are discussing alternative justice resolution, because this is the mode of justice delivery that resonates with our African people. And we are showcasing the work we have done to organize communities into NJS forums what we call ukumbis, to discuss, and where they have been discussing their problems and resolving problems and building harmony within communities. We are showcasing this to the whole of Africa continent, and Kenya is taking the lead, including profiling our Nairobi Center for Dispute Resolution as a forum where disputes can be resolved instead of the continent traveling to Asia, traveling to Middle East, or traveling to London to resolve disputes. Nairobi is a hub, a center of dispute resolution. So Kenya's judicial tradition is increasingly defined by bold and transformative jurisprudence. Jurisprudence that embraces African realities, Pan-African constitutionalism, indigenous justice systems, human dignity, equality, and a deep understanding of international human rights. This is the foundation from which Kenya presents Honorable Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u to the international community. In the forthcoming election of the courts, December 2026, 6 judicial positions will be open for election of the court. Of these, 2 positions must be filled by candidates from the African continent. This presents an important opportunity for Africa to contribute judicial wisdom, our judicial courage, judicial experience, and legal perspectives that are shaped by constitutional transformation, victim-centered justice, and post-conflict recovery, restorative justice, democratic renewal, and relentless pursuit of accountability. Kenya has consistently, Your Excellency, supported multilateralism, the rule of law, peaceful resolution of disputes, and cooperation with international institutions. We have also invested deeply in building an independent judiciary capable of protecting rights, capable of resolving very complex disputes, and sustaining public confidence in constitutional governance. In diplomatic terms, Your Excellency, Kenya's candidature represents not only a request for support, but a continuation of a long-standing relationship of cooperation, reciprocity, and shared commitment to international criminal justice. Honorable Njoki Ndung'u embodies the depth and seriousness of Kenya's judicial tradition. She brings to the candidature experience across prosecution, legislation, constitutional reform, human rights, gender justice, and adjudication at the apex court of very, very complex matters. Her career reflects the very qualities required of an international judge, a judge of integrity, independence, courage, intellectual depth, and fidelity to the law. She's a jurist shaped by Kenya's constitutional journey, Africa's legal traditions as she worked at the African Union, and a profound commitment to justice that serves both principle and humanity. With these remarks, Your Excellency, I want to assure you and the people of Kenya and the international community of judiciary's full support in this very important national endeavor. I thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Chief Justice, for your remarks. It is now my pleasure, honor, and privilege to invite the Prime Cabinet Secretary to address us, and thereafter to invite His Excellency the President.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable William Samoei Ruto, the Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, Lady Justice Martha Koome, Justice Ndung'u, colleagues. Your Excellency, first let me join other Kenyans in saluting you for pitching very, very effectively on behalf of Kenya and Africa at the Africa Forward Summit. It was indeed an event of great significance and consequence. So we really appreciate that you did what you did yesterday and the few days that were to it. Secondly, Your Excellency, to also say that we appreciate because another significant event took place. You did the groundbreaking for the United Nations expansion, where the UN is going to spend 340 million US dollars to make Nairobi a true hub for international relations in the global south. And on that note, let me acknowledge Ambassador Gary Cornell, who is with us here, former Prime Minister of Haiti, and also one of the top people, and including Madam Ida. Thank you for being with us at this gathering. At the Forward Summit, one of the issues that came up under the peace and security conversation, just to pick up from where Justice Aloch mentioned, was the misuse of the veto to suppress matters to do with genocide of victims against humanity and so forth. And this came up as a very, very topical issue. I bring it up because that is exactly where you're headed, Lady Justice. And the President and his colleague Macron chaired the session around this conversation. But now let me very quickly say this. When the President got communication, he was at the forefront in endorsing the nomination. He actually went ahead of bureaucracy and gave us direction and told us it is so decided. So we did what we had to do. We have all signed the cabinet memo because bureaucracy is now chasing the decision. I have signed it as Foreign Affairs. Attorney General has signed, and the Treasury has signed. But I'll not disclose how much we are looking for. That is a separate matter to help this campaign. So I just want to say that the government is fully aligned, and the President has made it very clear that we have to go flat out to support your candidacy for the ICC. The other thing that I would just want to flag is that I can attest to the fact that His Excellency has already left the blocks because he has already pitched and canvassed with quite a number of nations already. So he's not waiting, he's moving. The final thing is really to speak to Kenyans, Your Excellency, because under Foreign Affairs, there's a division on candidacies where we are able to rally talented Kenyans, deserving Kenyans, competent Kenyans to some of these international assignments. It's an important area, but the appeal I really want to make is that when a president endorses a candidate, we need, as a nation, to ensure that we get the signal right. That is now a Kenyan candidate. That is what it symbolizes. And we must divorce that from any local partisan issues. We are going to canvass in one instance 190 plus countries, and in this instance 125. We cannot go there saying, oh yeah, oh yeah. It's a different ballgame altogether. And we must be united so that we focus on Kenya as a nation. And his stamp of approval is Kenya's signal. It is not partisan. We should not bring any local sideshows into this campaign. Let us all rally as a nation because we are seeking something that will make Kenya proud in the international arena. Ladies and gentlemen, I've said enough. It is now my singular honor to ask us to be uprising so that we can invite His Excellency the President to formally launch our candidate, Kenya's candidate. Asante sana, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please, let's take our seats. I was at a meeting in Naivasha a few days ago. I don't know why consistently I'm pretending to be a linguist. So in this meeting in Naivasha, there was written on the wall, competency-based education. And I was asking whether it was competence or competency. I was later told that it was competency was right. Now, my good friend Musalia has also said something which I want to ask her whether it is the correct one or not. He has said, I'm requesting you to be uprising. And I was wondering whether it should be upstanding or uprising. Well, uprising looks like a riot or something. Honorable Mother Kome, Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, members of the Judiciary, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, today, Kenya stands before the international community not merely to endorse a candidature, but to strengthen the cause of international justice by presenting one of our most accomplished and distinguished jurists, the Honorable Lady Justice Susan Njoki Ndung'u, as Kenya's candidate for election as judge of the International Criminal Court for the year 2027-2036 term. In presenting her candidature, we affirm our belief in a rules-based international order, the independence of the judicial institutions, and the universal principle that justice must remain fair, impartial, and accessible to all nations and to all peoples alike. Ladies and gentlemen, the ICC occupies a singular place in the architecture of global justice. It exists because humanity resolved that genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and aggression must never be normalized. It exists because the global community agreed that the gravest crimes known to humankind must never go unanswered simply because perpetrators possess political, military, or economic power. But the authority of such a court ultimately rests on one thing: legitimacy. And legitimacy depends on fairness, adherence to evidence, consistency, universality, and equal application of the law, and unwavering judicial independence. International justice cannot endure if it is perceived as selective or preferential. No global institution can command confidence if justice appears vulnerable to geopolitics or unequal power relations. This is not because institutions are invaluable, but because civilization depends on institutions capable of defending the weak against the powerful, protecting victims against impunity, and ensuring that no one stands above the law. Kenya supports an international criminal justice system grounded firmly on judicial independence, procedural fairness, impartiality, integrity, and fidelity to the Rome Statute. We support a court that commands confidence, not through coercive authority, but through the quality, fairness, and credibility of its decisions. We support a court that remains attentive to victims, affected communities, and national jurisdictions under the principle of complementarity. And we support a court that recognizes that international justice and domestic justice systems must work in mutually reinforcing ways. For far too long, Africa has stood at the center of global conversations on conflict, accountability, displacement, democratic transition, and peace building. Our continent understands deeply the consequence of impunity, political violence, terrorism, and institutional fragility. But Africa has also produced some of the world's most important lessons in constitutional reconstruction, democratic renewal, restorative justice, institutional reform, and peaceful coexistence. Africa, therefore, cannot remain merely the subject of international justice. Africa must help shape international justice. And I believe firmly that the candidature of Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u is going to achieve this end. I have listened very carefully to her statement. And she has, I thought I was persuaded that she was the right candidate. But after listening to her, I am even more persuaded that we have the right candidate. I knew she was good, but now I can confirm that she is the best. And she has lived what I believe in, that leadership and any leader must be judged by their track record and their vision. I have listened very carefully to the track record of Njoki Ndung'u, and I have carefully also listened to her vision about what she wants to do at the International Criminal Court. and they are persuasive, coherent, and meaningful. And therefore, at a very personal level, on behalf of the government of Kenya, you have our endorsement, support, and we are going to campaign for you. Whether at the ICC, the United Nations Security Council, the Bretton Woods institutions, or the wider architecture of global governance, decisions affecting African peoples and African realities must increasingly include African voices, African experience, and African leadership. The majority of cases before the ICC have involved African situations, African communities, and African victims seeking justice. It is therefore both appropriate and necessary that Africa has strong, principled, and highly qualified representation on that bench. Not to protect the powerful, but to strengthen the legitimacy, universality, and credibility of international justice itself. It is in this context that Kenya proudly presents the candidature of the Honorable Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u, who is not just an accomplished jurist. She represents an entire generation of Kenyan constitutional reformers who helped steer this country from one of the most consequential democratic transitions in our history. I think Susan Amdanyi there, Daisy Amdanyi there has made a very compelling case from the civil society space for the candidature of Njoki Ndung'u. You know how difficult Daisy can be. And sometimes she can become a bully. Daisy. And I was really very happy to listen to you, Daisy. You made a very, you are exceptional. I must say this. You are really good. And I think you have become wise over time. Really, you spoke with a lot of wisdom because you said something very fundamental that I listened to. And you said that every opportunity, any one of us, irrespective of what space you are in, is a divine opportunity, and there is a reason why circumstances and God gives you that opportunity. And I think you listen very carefully, Lady Justice Njoki, that this is not just an election, it is also a divine opportunity for you to speak and give an African perspective and bring African experience and all the other experiences that you have gone through to international justice. And as I say so about you, and I say so about every other Kenyan that has an opportunity to make a contribution, either to our nation or in any other capacity. And it is for the same reason that I consider my election as president as an opportunity to do something that God wants me to do in this country. And that is why Daisy says, I have made all the difficult decisions. I want to tell you, there was nobody else that was going to make those decisions. It was going to be William Ruto, and that is why I got the opportunity to be president of this country. And I will discharge that responsibility with courage. Njoki Ndung'u has been a very courageous person. She has not shied away when it was the right thing for her to stand, even if stand alone. She stood alone. And that is the essence of leadership. She has asked me, because it's rare, to deliver on the 2/3 gender rule. A very difficult assignment. She knows it, because it involves all manner of people, different institutions, and all that. But I will do my best. I still want to assure you that I will do my best. All I am asking from my sister Daisy and all the other actors in that space is that the same way you have said Njoki was very strategic when it was time to pass the bills on Sexual Offences Act, and you had to negotiate with different actors in different places. I have tried to persuade the women movement in Kenya that let's be strategic. Maybe we need some lessons from Njoki on how to be strategic. Because if we aren't strategic, we can run into a lot of headwinds. Because you know the prejudices, you know the difficulties, and therefore I did make some suggestions on how we can be strategic and we can have an offline so that we can agree on how to take that forward. Because we are greatly inspired by what we can see in the candidature, not just of Njoki Ndung'u, but also of Phoebe Okowa. You remember last year we did campaign for her to take over the place of the judge who resigned. It's a 1-year short stint, and she won. Now she's serving in ICJ, and again we will be rolling out a campaign for Njoki Ndung'u and for Phoebe Okowa, and even the CAB memo that we are that is being worked on includes the candidature of both our two ladies, so that we can, take the finesse and the competence and the leadership of Kenya into the international arena. We have a lot of, we have a whole department at the Foreign Affairs to support international candidatures. Unfortunately, we haven't found as many Kenyans willing, and ready to apply and canvass for these international positions. I appreciate that we have a great country, and everybody wants to be here because we have a beautiful country. Very few people want to go and live in those other places. But you see, we have a duty and a responsibility to the international community as well, because just as we expect others to serve us in those positions in the international space, we should also participate so that our contribution, our perspectives, our experience can be brought into the international arena. And therefore, I want to encourage more Kenyans we have so many international positions for them to apply so that we can take our influence as a nation to the international arena. I want to say that everything that has been said about Njoki is correct. Her professional journey reflects fidelity to justice, institutional integrity, constitutionalism, and human dignity. For more than 3 decades, she has served with distinction across prosecutorial, legislative, constitutional reform, and judicial responsibilities. From her early years, prosecuting serious criminal offenses as a state counsel, and her role in shaping Kenya's constitutional transformation to distinguished service at the Supreme Court of Kenya, her career has consistently been defined by courage, intellect, and commitment to justice. As a member of the Committee of Experts that drafted Kenya's 2010 Constitution following the 2008 crisis, she helped rebuild Kenya's constitutional order around accountability, inclusion, institutional checks and balances, and democratic renewal. That experience matters profoundly for the work of the ICC because international criminal justice is not only about punishment, it is also about helping societies confront trauma, rebuild legitimacy, restore public confidence, and strengthen institutions capable of sustaining peace. But her contribution extends far beyond the bench. As a legislator, she led transformative reforms, as we have been told here, on sexual and gender-based violence, including the enactment of Kenya's Sexual Offences Act in 2006. She also contributed to the development of the Maputo Protocol, one of Africa's most consequential human rights instruments for the protection of women's dignity and rights. These experiences have given her a deep appreciation of survivor-centered justice, accountability for gender-based crimes, and protection of vulnerable populations in conflict and post-conflict settings. Kenya, therefore, presents to the international community not simply a candidate with technical legal competence, but a jurist shaped by Africa's constitutional struggles, democratic transitions, human rights movements, and the experience of institutional rebuilding. Let me say one more thing. Njoki, early this year, when this opportunity arose, Justice Njoki, together with other distinguished Kenyan jurists, presented themselves for a competitive nomination process, as we have been told by the Lady Chief Justice. Under the Rome Statute, individuals do not simply present themselves for the ICC bench. Their country must believe in them enough to sponsor and field their candidature. Kenya reviewed her record, reflected on her many years of distinguished service in the legislature, in the Attorney General's office, in the Supreme Court, and considered her lifelong contribution to constitutionalism, gender justice, the protection of the vulnerable, and many other of her contribution. Without hesitation, I concluded that she is exceptionally well suited for this important international responsibility. This is Justice Njoki Ndung'u's aspiration and calling. Kenya and Kenya's role is to ensure that the international community recognizes her immense value and benefits from her experience, integrity, and contribution to the advancement of justice. And I am very proudly here to not only endorse her candidature, but to also rally the government of Kenya and all our institutions to support her candidature, that of Phoebe Okowa, and to ask all of us, as has been said here ably, that this is not about a person. This is about a nation. Our candidature, that of Phoebe, is about Kenya. It's not about her. It's not about the next person, William Ruto or the other people. It's about all of us. And therefore, there are moments when we stand together as a nation, irrespective of all other considerations. This is one such moment that we must stand together. There are moments when it is about Kenya. And when it's about Kenya, it's about us. It's about each and every one of us. I was very, very proud about Kenya being able to host serious international engagements. We hosted the Africa Climate Summit, which was a very historic moment on climate diplomacy. We are hosting the only UN headquarters in the Global South right here in Nairobi. And yesterday we concluded the hosting of the Africa Forward Summit that brought together 35 heads of state and government, our friends from France and Europe, and others. Such moments are moments when we step forward as a nation and we put aside any partisan considerations and stand together as a country and as a people and a nation. We must never adulterate such occasions. We need to stand together, and it is therefore my singular honor, on behalf of the Republic of Kenya, to respectfully invite state parties to the Rome Statute to support the candidature of Honorable Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u for election as judge of the International Criminal Court 2027-2036. I thank you.
Let us all rise as we conclude this session with the national anthem, after which we shall have a brief photo session. But for now, let us have the national anthem. you. Your Excellency, we seek your